Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. You may have seen a lot of protests recently that say that they are part of the Takedown Tesla movement. These protests are funded in part by ActBlue and George Soros' organizations such as Indivisible Project, and coordination also appears to be facilitated through platforms like Tesla Takedown website, which lists troublemakers, and Disrupt Project as sponsors. But why would people protest Tesla, you might ask? Haven't taxpayer dollars gone to fund the purchase of these electric vehicles for years now because, they're going to help save the earth or something? Why are people running around keying the sides of cars? Well, if you listen to what these leftists have to say and the signs that they wave, you will see that it is not so much a protest about Tesla, but the founder, Elon Musk himself. They are calling him a Nazi, and they want to close any company having to do with him. These companies need to close because of how bad Elon Musk apparently is. They also seem to, by the way, drive to the protests in their Volkswagens and BMWs, which, of course, were Nazi Germany companies, but we're not supposed to notice those hypocrisies. But given the new rules of life that they are just making up, let's play their game, shall we? In an article by Father Sheenan Bouquet of HLI, we see that Planned Parenthood was founded by a racist white woman. No, this sentence was not penned by some pro-life activist pushing back against the whitewashing of the legacy of Margaret Sanger by, Planned Parenthood. Astonishingly, it appears in a statement signed by hundreds of current Planned Parenthood employees and supporters. The employees' oddly forthright admission of Planned Parenthood's racist history comes in context of their complaints about an alleged lack of racial equity within the organization. You just can't make this stuff up, can you? After pointing out that Sanger was racist, the statement adds, quote, "That is a part of history that cannot be changed. While efforts have been made to undo some of the harm from institutional racism, many of these issues have worsened," unquote. Well, for those that don't know, by the way, Planned Parenthood was founded by Margaret Sanger on October 16th of 1916 in Brownsville, New York. And to examine Sanger's writings is to just take a trip into a horrific world of dehumanizing rhetoric and even more dehumanizing practical programs. For Sanger, the world was divided into the fit and the unfit. Those who she deemed worthy of being allowed to reproduce, so as to increase the quality of the human race, of course, and those who should be forcibly prevented from reproducing through compulsory sterilization and segregation. These are her beliefs. Quote, "The first step would be to control the intake and output on morons, mental defectives, and epileptics." This is what she wrote in a document called My Way to Peace. I mean, this we're not making this stuff up here. Quote, "The second step would be to take an inventory of the second group, which as illiterates, paupers, unemployables, criminals, prostitutes, dope fiends, classify them in special departments under government mental protection, and segregate them on farms and open spaces." Yeah, segregate them on farms and open spaces. In other words, concentration camps for the unfit. The state, she urged, must, quote, apply a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to that grade of population whose progeny is already tainted or whose inheritance is such that objectable traits may be transmitted to offspring, unquote. In all, she estimated that some 5 million mental and moral degenerates would have to be segregated. In the end, inspired by her thinking and that of other euthygenics, dozens of U.S. states did put in place forcible sterilization programs in which tens of thousands of people deemed unfit were sterilized. An enormous black eye on this country's human rights record. Given the rampant racism at the time, especially among eugenics, it is not surprising that Sanger forced efforts on curtailing the fertility of racial minorities. While scholars debate the extent to which Sanger was motivated by racism as such, as opposed to the racist implications of her eugenics beliefs, which tend to view poor and impoverished minority communities as less developed members of the human race. It is uncontroversial that she explicitly strove to disseminate birth control among minority communities through the so-called Negro Project. In one infamous letter about that project, Sanger even appears to suggest that her organization was seeking to exterminate the blacks. That was the word she used. We don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, unquote. While some people claim that Sanger's meaning in the letter has been misunderstood, what is certain is that she speaks of blacks in that letter with painful dismissiveness, condemning their ignorance, as she put it. Ignorance, superstition, and doubts, as she called it. It is also verifiable that on at least one occasion, she spoke at a meeting of the Ku Klux Klan. On another occasion, she wrote these astonishingly dehumanizing words about the Australian indigenous peoples there, and saying, quote, the lower down in the scale of human development we go, the less sexual control we find. It is said the Aboriginal Australian, the lowest known species of the human family, just a step higher than the chimpanzee in brain development, has so little sexual control that police authorities alone prevents him from obtaining sexual satisfaction on the streets. Those, again, it's a direct quote. Pro-life activists have long pointed out that the racist DNA of eugenics is still very much at the work of Planned Parenthood. Just as Sanger targeted poorer minority communities for her eugenic efforts, so too does her organization, and even to this day. According to one study, 79% of Planned Parenthood's surgical abortion facilities are located within walking distance of African American or Hispanic Latino neighborhoods. And tragically, the abortion numbers among Black and other minority groups are catastrophically high in comparison to the average population, of course. In New York City, for instance, the latest numbers show that more Black babies are aborted every year than are born alive. Across the country, the Black abortion rate is 3 to 4 times that of the general population. The nation's leading abortion chain birthed in eugenics, racism, and elitism. They seem to inject themselves into every social issue using $554 million and annual taxpayer dollars to pander, no matter what they do. Planned Parenthood kills over 260 unarmed black lives every day in America, yet the left just simply praises them. Why? Because the money. The fact is, in their vocal support of like Black Lives Matter, Planned Parenthood simply moved the deck chairs, hoping that we will ignore the fact that that they have done nothing to fundamentally reject the core values of Margaret Sanger. They are perpetuating her legacy by supporting the programs she inaugurated. And the result has been the death of untold millions of innocent African American babies over the decades. So, as you can see, Planned Parenthood was founded in racism and is without a doubt systemically racist and needs to be torn down and dismantled. But it's not just because they are founded on a racist eugenic that they need to be taken down. They continue to do immoral things. In an article from the New York Post by Dana Kennedy said, stomach churning emails show Planned Parenthood negotiating terms regarding the donation of aborted fetuses for medical research. The emails discuss fatal tissue like any other commodity, such as sugar or rice, nonchalantly negotiating for fetuses up to 23 weeks old from elective abortions. A heavily redacted so-called research plan, as they put it, submitted to the University of California, San Diego, Institutional Review Board, and approved in 2018, states scientists wanted 2,500 fetuses from up to almost the 6 month of gestation for experimentation. Quote, we will collect tissues from fetuses ranging from 4 to 23 weeks gestational age from subjects undergoing elective surgical pregnancy termination at Planned Parenthood in San Diego, the plan states. Although selling fetus tissue is illegal, donating it is not illegal, and the contract between UCSD and Planned Parenthood appears to allow Planned Parenthood to retain, quote, intellectual property rights relating to the fetal tissue, although it also does not grant UCSD the independent right to commercialize the tissue. The fetuses were taken to Perpetual repository at UCSD to be researched, and the emails were shared with the Post by controversial pro-life activist David Daledin and his organization, the Center for Medical Progress, who obtained them through a California state public records request. The majority of healthy infants born at 23 weeks can survive with modern medical care, by the way. The youngest surviving premature baby, Curtis Means, was born at 21 weeks and 2 days in April of 2021 in Alabama. Quote, these documents show that Planned Parenthood is supplying healthy babies who are old enough to survive outside the womb from late-term abortions to the University of California's royalty-generating experiments. After months of pro-abortion forces and media gaslighting the public about whether late-term abortions on healthy babies and healthy mothers actually happen, to see it spelled out this explicitly in the records of a government-funded body is truly shocking and also extremely clarifying for the conversation on abortion and our country that our country is currently in. Now, the Post cannot confirm whether any of the fetuses supplied to UCSD were healthy or able to survive outside the womb prior to the abortions. Takedown also accused Planned Parenthood of racism, citing the context forms from the consent forms from Planned Parenthood involved the donation of pregnancy tissue from their abortions, which are given to pregnant mothers. The English language consent forms contain 15 bullet points, including language disclosing that the donated tissue may have significant commercial value, as they put it. However, the specific information is not included in the Spanish language consent forms, which contain only 14 bullet points. Quote, I don't understand why Planned Parenthood and UCSD felt that Spanish-speaking mothers did not deserve to know that the body parts of their aborted children would be commercialized, while English-speaking mothers did deserve to have this fact disclosed to them. This according to Takedown. Quote, the only explanation I can think why this discriminatory discrepancy persists for at least 4 years is blatant institutional racism, unquote. That contract, made for valuable consideration, grants UCSD access to fetal and placental tissue, which are materials of Planned Parenthood San Diego. The parties agree that in granting access to the aborted fetal body parts, quote, PPSD shall retain all rights, title, and interest in and to the material, including, but not limited to, all right, title, and interest in patients and patient applications and other intellectual property rights relating to the material, unquote. I mean, it's a lot of legalese, just saying that they can benefit financially from these body parts. One email from researchers to Planned Parenthood shown to the Post notes how they have 27 heart samples, but requested more, of varying fetal ages, including 15 weeks and later. Quote, she agrees with me that hearts should be pretty easy to collect, writes one UCSD clinician. Planned Parenthood's national office did not want to respond to the email, of course. Neither did the pro-abortion organization and the Center for Reproductive Rights. Nobody really wants to talk about this. But Takedown said he has been under investigation by the California State Attorney General's office since 2015, when then California Attorney General Kamala Harris went after him, allegedly at the behest of Planned Parenthood, of course. And he had released undercover videos of their executives discussing fees and prices associated with the transfer of fetal tissue in July of 2015. Planned Parenthood has denied that these videos shown any illegal conduct, but rather show the legal, not-for-profit donation of fetal tissue to research firms. Quote, at several of our health centers, we help patients who want to donate tissue for scientific research, and we do this just like every other high-quality health care provider does, with full appropriate consent from patients and under the highest ethical and legal standards. This is what Planned Parenthood spokesman Eric Ferrero said at the time. Quote, in some instances, actual costs, such as the cost to transport tissue to leading research centers, are reimbursed, which is standard across medical field, he said in the statement. But Takedown faces 8 felony charges and possible jail time in California for making the undercover videos, as well as for manufacturing a fake driver's license in order to enter Planned Parenthood's office in Houston. A trial date is still underway, still to come, and he's pleaded not guilty to those charges. But Takedown's legal troubles have not dissuaded him and his fellow activists from continuing to expose what they claim are illegal practices involving harvesting fetal tissue. Quote, it's a pattern that repeats across the country. Large late-term abortion clinics that have partnerships with their local taxpayer-funded research universities. And in March of last year, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio called for a federal investigation into Planned Parenthood based on his work. The transfer of any aborted human fetal tissue for valuable consideration across the state lines is a federal felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison or a fine of up to $500,000. Under the law, valuable consideration does not include reasonable payments associated with the transportation, implementation, processing, preservation, quality control, or storage of fetal tissue. So, again, just nasty stuff here by Planned Parenthood and other universities. Really, to be honest with you, they're just as much in cooperation with them. And in a opinion piece, I thought this was very good. I wanted to share this with you, and it's from it's an opinion piece from Kathy Lesnoff. She wrote for the Daily Wire, and she says Planned Parenthood shouldn't receive 1 cent of Americans' taxpayer dollars. That's the central truth at the heart of a landmark case the U.S. Supreme Court will hear, and it started on April 2nd, versus Medina versus Planned Parenthood South Atlantic. The incredibly flawed and corrupted abortion industry is a sham of women's true health care. She says, I know. I used to work in an abortion facility. Before my eyes were opened to the truth of life in the womb and the unspeakable harms abortion inflicts on both child and mother, I was a medical assistant at an abortion facility in Illinois. The doctors would perform between 40 and 60 abortions a day. Yes, a day, 6 days a week, in fact. We had between 5 to 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes to get a woman on the table for her procedure and then move her quickly to the next room so doctors could perform the next abortion. It was a fast-moving train of patient to patient to patient. And if you didn't have the girl ready when the doctor came in, you were slowing him down. He'd write you up, and that would go into your employment file. It was very important to move quickly so the doctors could perform as many abortions as possible, up to 10 additional each day. One former Planned Parenthood nurse recently remarked on the fast pace of abortion facilities. She shared her own experience in the New York Times article. Employees sometimes administered expired pain medication or the wrong medications as they scrambled to move people in and out. She added that it was not uncommon for patients to be taken to the wrong room and prepped for the wrong procedure. All of that is deeply disturbing, but unfortunately, it does not surprise me, she says. The focus of the industry that loudly touts women's health care is on one thing: money. And abortion is big money. In fact, it is the most significant driving factor in the abortion industry. Between 2018 and 2023, Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the U.S., received $3.2 billion with a B in direct public funding. Each year, it receives hundreds of millions more from private donors. Since 2022, it has experienced a fundraising boom, amassing over $2.5 billion in net assets. Well, its supporters are being deceived into believing big abortion equals comprehensive care for women or something. Planned Parenthood takes donors' money and spends it on political activism, not people, and certainly not women's health care. The aforementioned New York Times article reported that over the last 5 years, the national office has distributed more than $899 million to affiliates to help them deliver care, but none of it went directly to medical services. Much of the money went instead to pro-abortion politicking, legal costs, and marketing. Between 2022 and 2023, women's preventative care visits fell by 31%. That's almost a third. And the number of patients seen annually has fallen 60% since the 1990s. Cancer screening and preventative services have dropped by 71% since 2010, including declines of 72% for breast exams and 74% for Pap tests. Americans should never be forced to fund any activist organization, much less one with such an abysmal and deceptive track record, especially when the majority of Americans reject taxpayer funding for abortion. The state of South Carolina agreed. It rightly determined that Planned Parenthood doesn't qualify as a healthcare provider that should receive Medicare dollars. In response, Planned Parenthood sued the state, and now the nation's highest court is weighing this critical case. States should be free to direct their funding to providers offering genuine, comprehensive health care by excluding organizations like Planned Parenthood, whose primary business is abortion, from public funding. There are roughly 200 publicly funded health care clinics in South Carolina alone that provide a broad range of high-quality services, including family planning services. Consider also the numerous pregnancy centers offering valuable free services to need. It's been my great honor, she says, to have seen firsthand these service-oriented organizations at work in their communities. For nearly 4 decades, she says, I've worked at Mosaic Health, a pregnancy center with 2 locations in Illinois. We've served more than 25,000 clients by offering no-cost pregnancy testing and ultrasounds, testing and treatment for sexual transmitted infections, post-abortion counseling, abortion referrals, parenting classes, and a wide range of practical resources for new parents, from diapers to clothes to bottles. Yet the state of Illinois works diligently to force us to close our doors. Current state law specifically targets pregnancy centers like Mosaic because of our fundamentally held belief that abortion offers no benefits, especially the unborn baby. Because the U.S. Supreme Court held that forcing people to promote abortion is unconstitutional, we've partnered with Alliance Defending Freedom and other Illinois pregnancy centers to challenge this unconstitutional law. I, along with many others across the state, pray the district court will see the law's injustice and uphold our freedom as a pregnancy center to operate according to our deeply held beliefs. But I'm also looking to the U.S. Supreme Court as they weigh the Medina case, hoping they will agree with the ADF attorneys representing South Carolina and find that states should be free to spend their funds on true, comprehensive, and life-affirming health care for women and children. I just thought that was very good, and I wanted to bring that to you because you can see Planned Parenthood is nothing but an abortion mill. They rarely do anything else in terms of healthcare. And when they do, it's all on referral type stuff. I mean, we have so many federal healthcare clinics. They're free of charge to those that need them. There's no need to be funding Planned Parenthood to be doing abortions. Defund and take down Planned Parenthood seems to be a more appropriate protest in my estimation, because this is a this is a deeply racist organization, even today. Obviously, we went through Margaret Sanger, and how what she believed at the time that she started Planned Parenthood back in 1916. But we also have seen just how immoral and racial they are even today. They do not need a single dollar from taxpayers. We need to take down Planned Parenthood. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe your experiences on it. I would love to hear from you. You can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. And of course, we're also on YouTube now. And thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.